Half Daddy. This is the Outside Gate with Steve Hall on the L4 Media Network, where we talk US moto and anywhere the conversation goes. Joining me today is the 1994 and 1995 West Coast 125 Supercross champion and all rounds 90s and 2000s superstar, Damon Huffman.
Huh.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you so much for having me on.
No worries, man. As always, I'm thrilled to have any of these guys on that I used to read about in magazines. So yeah, it's good to meet your heroes, as they say. Sometimes they say don't meet your heroes, but I've found that in motocross that is definitely wrong. I'd say do meet
Oh,
your heroes in this sport. So yeah,
yeah, definitely a lot of good guys in motocross. It's a brutal sport, and a lot of classy old moto dudes still hanging around. Like myself.
yeah. Absolutely, man. What have you been up to just lately? So I know you get right into mountain biking. I've watched a couple of your mountain bike videos, and you've got a YouTube channel for mountain bike videos and stuff.
I do. Yeah, I do that purely for fun. It's fun to do. I do a lot of the videos with my two boys. Um, And I try to do just enough to still get a little love from like Intense Bicycles or Fast House and get some free stuff here and there. But I love mountain biking. When I get done mountain biking, I feel really good, but
Mm.
moto, I'm 48 now, so when I ride motocross, I come back and I'm like beat up, really beat up feeling.
Yeah, yeah. Now, yeah, I know what you mean. I love cycling. Where I live, there's no good mountain biking. It's where I live is it's very very flat. So
Ah,
you
yeah.
need hills for mountain bikes. It's in the name, isn't it?
Yeah.
Mountain bike. So I just road bike, but yeah, I know after a just a good ride on the pushy, as we call them,
Huh.
it just feels great. I love that sort of exercise, that grind, and just being out
Yeah.
in the wind
Yeah.
and yeah, all that sort of thing. It's just it's not as good as moto, of course, but it's good in a different way though, isn't it? Yeah, it's a strange thing to
It
explain.
is.
Hard to explain to people what that pedaling does for you if they're not into it, I guess. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. For sure. My ankles and knees, they've taken a beating. So that cycling motion, you know, um, I walk away and it feels like it helps.
It
So
it
yeah.
does, man. It
Yeah.
does, yeah. I've got a dodgy ankle. I think everyone that's ridden dirt bikes has got something dodgy in their legs or
Oh,
their
for sure.
or hips.
Absolutely.
And it helps heaps, man. It really, I think it keeps those ankles and knees and everything, strong
Yep.
and loose and yeah.
Yes.
It's good fun. Yeah. Cool, man. Cool. Hey, we might so what we usually do and what the show's generally all about is about people's dirt biking lives. And
Hmm.
so the first question, my go-to is, when did the bug bite, man? When did you first see a mini bike or ride one? When did the bug bite you for dirt bikes?
Yeah. I was either around four, turning five, around 5 years old, and I actually had a little 50. It was I think my first bike was actually a JR 50, a little Suzuki, and my sister and I shared it. And then, I didn't want to get off the thing, I guess. So then I went to a Talajet 50. I don't
Oh
know if
yeah,
you ever
yeah,
heard of a Talajet.
yes, yeah.
Yeah, okay. It was a little blue one. And I started racing a little bit probably around the age of 6. And at Indian Dunes is where I first raced. Then we would go and they would have racing every weekend pretty much, either Friday night race or Saturday night. You race under the lights and um, yeah, I don't know. I don't recall, yeah, those early years too much. Basically, I remember one time my throttle got stuck wide open, and I was heading. It was in the like the pit area, and I was heading for a chain link fence, and I was getting ready to crash into the fence, and I guess I had the instincts to, low side it to just, like slide out, and the throttle was wide open, and so my dad was like, he thought that was impressive, I guess, but. um yeah, we just started, going and doing it for fun. And then we would do, yeah, a little series of races in a row. Then if you're the overall champion, you might get a free set of tires or a can of chain lube or whatever. And the other thing about me, you probably know, but I'm a little bit of an introvert. So I think I love being able to put on a helmet and no one can actually see me, who I am, and just get in my own little world or zone and just ride. And I never really talked about it a whole lot. It was all about I would rather put my helmet on and go out and go win or do really well, and I don't know, be noticed, that way instead of just talking about it. So I think that helped just keep me really focused and just sticking to writing.
Cool, cool. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, I love the story, man. I always love these stories. It's that's my favorite thing. But yeah, I really like the bit about you talking about being an introverted kid and that sort of thing. Is believe it or not, most people wouldn't believe it. But I was too. So, yeah, so
Yeah.
people wouldn't believe it that know me nowadays mostly. But yeah, that I certainly can resonate with that a little bit, man. Yeah, cool.
Hmm.
Cool. So maybe just we might just move on to maybe I guess, when did your racing sort of start to get serious? When did you first sort of started to get into things and get a little serious and start to think, geez, I could maybe, actually be a pro and do something with this?
Probably in 1984, my first really big win was at the World Mini at Saddleback in the Pee Wee class, and I won. So, essentially, I was like, Pee Wee national champion at 8 years old. And from that point, I felt like I always had a little bit of help with sponsors and, maybe getting, some free riding gear and uh, a little discount on motorcycles or whatever that my dad had to pay for. But, and from that point, I just kind of carried on, and every year we would go to the big amateur races, and I was always at the very top of my class, either winning or top three. Then it just slowly started to build where, soon I was getting, yeah, like two free motorcycles and a little parts allowance and, you know, 5 sets of free riding gear and a free helmet or whatever. But we just kind of stuck to the big amateur races, and I I was either winning or, in that top three. So it wasn't until, I don't know, probably later when I was on 80s, 80cc bikes, where kind of 80 intermediate and 80 expert, where I really started to, I was watching, Rick Johnson and Johnny O'Mara and David Bailey, and like those guys were, all my heroes, and Ron Lachine. Um, I really started to following the Supercross and the pro racing, but it wasn't until I was probably around like 13, 14 that, thinking, okay, one day I could be there. Well, I had a little deal through Team Green Kawasaki, and even when I was on 60s, kind of around, I guess that would be, 85, 80, 86, where I don't know if the bikes were fully free, you know, 1 or 2 free bikes, but definitely a discount to where at least my dad could sell the bikes at the end of the year and kind of make our money back.
Yeah.
And then I went from Kawasaki to Suzuki, R&D Suzuki in 88 and 89. And I know for sure at that point, I was getting some free motorcycles, maybe 3 or 4. Um, and then, and some, you know, free gear, a lot, you know, really helping out my dad a lot
Yeah.
because he was the one driving me and paying for gas and taking me all over the country.
That R&D
Then,
Suzuki team, those R&D Suzuki,
yeah,
those bikes, they were good, man. Like, you know, there's a lot of people came up on those bikes, didn't they? They were awesome. They were probably nearly the pinnacle, I guess, of mini bike teams, weren't they? R&D Suzuki.
yeah, yeah. I think starting with, you know, Mike Healy and Buddy Antunez and Jimmy Gaddis. Yeah, you know, yeah, Buddy was, you know, he was the man on a 80,
Yeah.
super fast.
Yeah.
But then I used to, you know, the amateur races, you would get like the big East Coast guys like Brian Swank and yeah, there were so many guys that were just slightly ahead of me, but I really looked up to them and watched them. You know, I was always a very visual learner, so I loved watching, you know, the pro class or the 80 expert class and just, you know, hearing the bikes and just seeing how they're working the clutch and carrying the speed. You know, that's how I learned, you know, just watching.
Cool, man. Who was
Yeah.
your in those days? Did you have an on track rival? That kid that was you're always battling with this certain one kid that tends to happen a lot of the time.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I would say my first run in where I went head to head was Ezra Lusk. Ezra. So even at the 1984 World Mini, they came all the way from Georgia to California, and I won. I don't know what class I won. I won one of them, but I beat him, you know, head to head, and so all the way through, you know, 60s and 80s, he was kind of always the guy to beat. Him and Jeff DeMint.
Oh yeah,
I battled a lot with DeMint, and then Craig Decker quite a bit. David Pingree. Those are kind of like the main guys. And then Ezra turned pro. He pretty much went from 80 expert to 125 pro.
Okay.
And I did a whole year of 125 intermediate, like the B class.
Yeah.
But Ezra went, I mean, he just jumped right into the pro class. You know, he probably was a little faster than me at that point. And Suzuki, you know, put him right out there in the factory team in 92.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So your first, I've got it written down here, man. Your first pro race was at Houston '92 East-West Shootout. That's what the vault says. The vault's not always
I
right,
think
but it
so.
usually is.
I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I forgot it was the East-West. That's crazy that the first race for the West Coast would have been an East-West combined race. I forgot about that.
Yeah. So that's
I know I qualified, right? I don't know what I got. 12?
Yeah, I didn't write down your result, but I think you
Oh.
must have. Because the vault. I think the vault only shows main event, so you must have qualified.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I think if you missed it, the vault doesn't even. There's no record of it. So yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I've never not qualified for 125 Supercross. So I know that for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. And then, so your first win, Anaheim '93. Anaheim was very good for you, man. Like it was a happy hunting ground there, man. Yeah, 93, 94, 95, Anaheim. Yeah, it was definitely.
Well, and 96, I got second behind Jeremy in the 250 class. So
Yeah, yeah.
four really good years. Actually, in 92, I was running third place. It was Jeremy. He was on the Peak Honda.
Yep.
Then Buddy Antonez on the Peak Honda, and I was running third. And then my bike seized or blew up on me.
Yep.
So I was running third, a pretty solid third, for about half the race, and then my bike just went boom and just done. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're right. Yeah, Anaheim. 93 Anaheim was totally awesome. Only 17 years old, and I was still going to regular high school, just
Mm.
regular, just a senior in high school. Then I was so quiet and shy that people at my own high school they didn't even really know at like what level I rode and raced at, because I didn't talk about it. I went to school, did my work, went home, and I was out riding. But when I won in 93, then I came back to school Monday morning, kind of like no big deal. Then there's a lot of kids from the school and even some teachers that happened to be there. So I became a little bit of a celebrity at that point. Yeah.
Yeah. How did that feel as an introverted kid? Was that just like, oh, I wish they didn't know, or did you actually enjoy it?
I think inside I loved it. I
Yeah.
secretly,
Yeah.
I was never like a cool kid. I was always quiet and did my own thing. It was like I had friends at school, and that's the only time I saw them. I never hung out with them after school. I never went to parties, never went to the prom. It was purely school. Then as soon as I was out of school, it was, I was doing, lap times on the track.
Yeah.
And yeah, but it was cool. Really, uh, you know, it was really neat at that time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. As a young person, it must have given you just a huge boost of confidence, at least inside.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I've always been, I quietly want to just destroy you, and hated losing. Um, no matter what it is, I always want to win.
Yeah.
But also, my dad pushed me so hard that uh, I had to win, or else I'm going to hear it from him all the way home. So
Okay.
that
Yeah.
that gave me extra motivation too. He knew how to kind of push my buttons and fire me up, and or else I was going to hear it. But inside, obviously I had that drive and passion, and did not like to didn't like to lose. Just same as all the top guys. Carmichael always talked about how he just hated losing, had like a fear of losing.
Yeah.
Um, and I guess when you do so much winning your whole life, that getting fifth or seventh or whatever, that sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool, man. We move into your championship years. The next up, man. So yeah, just
Yeah.
memories from your championship years. Maybe was there a specific race or time in '94 where you really sort of it started to feel real, like I've got this championship, like if I keep it together, I'm going to win this thing.
Yeah. It really started back in 93. Because 93, I won four. I won four of them, but I didn't win the championship. Jimmy Gaddis, he was on the podium every race. He never won, but he was top three every time.
Yeah.
And I won four, and I was just all over the place. So for me, the way it worked out, 92 was a learning year. I had a couple moments that were pretty good. 93, I broke out and won a lot. 94, I only won 2 of them, but I was top 3 every time. So I kind of got that consistency. Then 95, it all just came together, and I won, the first 6 in a row. And I got second in the other 2. It was just building and learning and confidence. 95, yeah, it was a feeling of, I got the number 1 plate. I'm the man. I'm going to win. I got the best bike. I got the best mechanic. I'm just young and dialed in and confident and right in my prime.
Yeah.
So really, going back in 93, I was really up and down. Then I got on a podium, I want to say in Dallas, which was at East West. And then I won the last 3 in a row. San Jose, the Rose Bowl, and Vegas. And then 94, I was on the podium every race. Then 95, I was on the podium every race. So that's 20 supercrosses in a row that I was top 3. So that's, I don't know if that's a record for the 125 class or not, but I'm not really sure.
I'm gonna look it up. I'm gonna look it up, and I'll look it
Yeah.
up and I'll let you know for
So
sure.
yeah, I had
that's
4 in a row at the end of
Yeah.
93. Then I don't know how many rounds there were. 8. There was 8 in 95. So 4, 8, and 8 is 20. Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
So it's a good run.
Yeah, you mentioned your mechanic there. So
Yep.
through all that time, it was Tony.
Yep.
Yeah,
Not in
Balloody. Yeah.
93. I
Oh,
had
okay,
this guy Mark Johnson,
Yep.
Caveman, they called him, and he was great. It was Suzuki making some changes, and Tony became available, and they thought it would be a better match for me.
Yep.
And it ended up being the perfect match because he knew how to be really positive and boost me up, but also get me a little fired up and motivated. I mean, he worked really well with me. It worked well. Yeah.
That the mechanic rider relationship is really interesting. I don't think people outside of the sport couldn't possibly imagine how important that relationship is. Like, yeah, they've got to be a good mechanic as far as working on the bike, but that relationship with the rider and they're not just a mechanic, especially back in the day, they're they're a motivational speaker. They're a dad to some kids. It's huge. That huge sort of the people skills is probably was just as or maybe more important than their actual skills with a spanner. Yeah.
You're absolutely right. And I think it was probably even a little more crucial because we were in box fans. And occasionally I would travel with them inside the box fan. Like during the summer for nationals, we would stay back east for a little bit. But I was talking about this the other day with some guys, and my 125 days, like having a good mechanic, no matter if you're on a factory team or privateer, your mechanic was still required to kind of do that little bit of fine tuning, with the jetting and the air screw and just all, those little tiny tricks of just, making that throttle nice and buttery feeling. And, it was probably more crucial back then. Now it seems like the guys have a mechanic to keep the nuts and bolts tight, but then there's an engine guy, there's a suspension guy, there's a chassis guy or electronics guy. But back in the day, it was your mechanic, building your engine, tearing it down, putting new piston rings in it, whatever it was, and building that bike with that little bit of extra love or knowledge. So it was a combination of the Suzuki 125 was a good bike
Mm.
those years.
Yeah.
I had hands down the best mechanic, and I was just right in my prime.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah. And then into 250s, man. And what a year to have to go into 250s when like the greatest ever's on his greatest season like that.
Yeah.
Your time that timing was no good. But yeah, you went was Anaheim the first round that year? Or no, it would have been the second round that year, probably, was it?
No, it started in Orlando,
Yeah.
and I believe I finished 4th.
Yeah.
It was good. I didn't even know. I came by that race on somewhere YouTube, and I won my heat race, which I didn't remember winning a heat race back then, but I won the heat, then got 4th in the main. Then maybe round 2 was Anaheim. I'm not really sure.
Yeah. I think back then, yeah, I think it was in those years because it was real weird. It was like
Yeah, all
you're
the
going
trucks had to go
all the
all the way to
way east, and then
Orlando,
I look back
then
at some
come
of
all
these
the way
things, and
back.
it's strange. But I guess it was just the availability of the stadiums at the time,
Yeah.
or I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, but then yeah, second to MC at 96 Anaheim, and which when you look at it, that's just about a win, isn't it? So yeah,
It's pretty big. I mean,
yeah,
nowadays, to get second is huge. Um, but coming in as my rookie year in '96, I wanted to win, and I believed that I could win. And I think a lot of guys who have been racing with Jeremy since, well, '93, I guess his first year on 250s, they were kind of used to getting beat, and I was
yep,
I was new. I I loved that Kawasaki was a great bike. I tried desperately to try to get Berluti to follow me to Cowie, and he just couldn't do it. Kawasaki required him to live in California and be at the race shop during the week, and his whole family was in Vegas, and uh he had quite a bit of seniority at Suzuki, and but anyways, it started off really good. Um, and again, I felt great on the bike. Physically, I felt great. Then I suffered from some bad starts in a lot of those races and worked my way up, and was passing all those guys except for Jeremy. Um, but I was getting close, really close to getting them that year.
mm, mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, obviously I'm a historian of the sport, and you watch races and look at results now. Like, you're probably, I don't think you weren't second in points in the end, were you? But you were kind of
No.
looking back, looking at just watching things and looking at it. You were the second best guy, basically,
Well,
in
yeah,
my
I ran
opinion, that year.
second.
Yeah.
I had four second place finishes behind Jeremy.
Mm.
That great race at Seattle, where actually I passed him and he would pass me back, and I would get him through the hoops again, uh, and my clutch just faded out. I had so much free play that even with it all the way in, my bike was still just going around corners, and I stalled it.
Ah, yeah.
Um, then the very next week, my bike, they manufactured an adjustable clutch that would tighten up the cable. So I
Oh,
might have been like the first guy with one of those on my bike.
yeah.
First one at Cowie. So after Seattle, like I knew it. I knew I could beat him.
Yeah.
And I got third at Daytona. Decent ride. And then I think another second maybe at Houston or somewhere. And then during the week practicing, I had this endo where I nosed into another jump, and I sprained or jammed my wrist really bad to where I couldn't really move it without having pain. So then I ended up riding Tampa with a wrist brace that was really made from it was a rollerblading wrist guard
Oh, all right.
piece of
Yeah.
plastic. Yeah, that I had my arm in, and this one on off section. I had my bike jumped into neutral. So when I jumped on and I went to accelerate going off, I just went straight over the handlebars, and I ended up tearing my ACL, and then the season was done.
Yeah.
But up until that point, yeah, I was second in points with a pretty good gap over third, and Jeremy, Jeremy was winning every week, but I had a pretty strong second going for a while.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That ACL tear is a bit of a and sort of, from a fan's point of view, it derailed a lot of momentum your career had. Would you say that's right?
Yeah, it was really like the first time getting injured for me, and going through a rehabilitation process and having surgery. First time having surgery. So it was tough, then you're riding and it's a little hard to stick your leg out, or you're afraid to dab it here and there. But really, it was kind of the beginning of the end of my career, because I had 3 years in a row of having surgery and breaking bones. And, 96, I did my knee. I always came back and I won and did well. So I came back in 97, I won Atlanta Supercross. The off season, I won the World Supercross Series.
Yep.
Which that counts as an actual FIM World Championship.
That was that.
Yeah.
That year, was that where it was mostly, it was Canada? They did a few in Canada, or did they go elsewhere that year?
It was still a full on World Championship. Osaka, Tokyo, all 3 nights in Paris counted, 2 nights in Barcelona, and 2 nights in Geneva, Switzerland.
Yeah.
It was an actual championship, with, I don't know how many rounds that is, like 9 rounds, maybe more, 10. And all the big names were in it, including Jeremy and Pashan, and I think some of the guys didn't go to Japan. It was mainly the factory guys that went to Japan. But all the other rounds, the typical, Larry Ward and Mike Craig and, LaRocco at some of them. And I don't know who else, but that was 97. But it was cool to come out on top on that one. And
absolutely.
Actually count it as a world championship.
It is a world championship, man. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But, and then, I broke my lower leg. I broke my lower leg after winning Atlanta. Then I was in a cast, my whole leg in a cast for, 6 weeks. Then it took a little bit to get back, but I came back and I won Troy, Ohio, the outdoor national, where I don't know if you remember that one, but I beat Carmichael both motos in the 125 class.
Yeah.
That's kind of a big highlight in my career,
because there's not many not many people have done that.
No. I think there's really like 4, maybe 5 guys in the world that have actually beat Carmichael straight up both motos in a national. Robbie Raynard, Kevin Windham, Bubba.
Yeah.
And maybe me. Maybe there's only 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very short list.
Yeah, small list. So I came back strong. Yeah, I won that. I won the World Championship Supercross. Then in 98, 98, we got off track with the bike. We did a ton of off-season testing. We were trying all kinds of different things on the bike. We had this electronic rear shock where the shock was wired. It had like a little, brain in it where it's wired to the ignition. And when the bike would reach a certain RPM, the shock would like stiffen up. And we're trying to make it start better.
Okay.
When you're wide open going down the start, the rear shock would get really stiff and wouldn't squat or wheelie.
Okay.
Now this is all before the little starting device where you click the front end down.
Yeah.
Which I think they need to take those off. They need to go back to dirt, no starting device.
Nothing.
All
on the skill. I reckon too.
Yeah. And there's so many first turn pileups now because everyone's launching good. Perfect.
Yeah.
They're coming into that first turn, 7 wide, and there's no room. Or you got people cutting over. But dirt, no starting device, there's going to be some separation.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Anyways, getting off track.
No, I'm on board with that.
I have so many ideas that can make Supercross so much better. Because now I'm just a fan. I've been a fan for so many years, just watching it on TV, and they could do so much more. If you want to get into that, we can or talk about it later. But
hey, we might. That's
jeez, man.
Next time you're on, I'm going to pencil that in. Next time you're on, we're going to get into that because I don't want to take up too much of your time today, and I want to talk a bit more about your career and that, of course. Yeah, but I'd love to get into that sort of stuff for sure. Yeah, on when we do Half Daddy show 2, huh? That'd be great one day.
Okay,
dude, that's really interesting what you're saying about that 98 KX because the 97 and 98 bikes were, to someone like me, they're pretty similar bikes. It wasn't an upgrade. But there was struggles. The 97 bike was, obviously very good. Obviously, Fro won on it, both series, and then
kind of. Well,
okay,
I'll stop you there.
Okay, yeah.
So, Imig, all through 97, just rode the 96 setup that he won the outdoor nationals on.
Okay, yeah.
And he straight up would show up to testing. He would show up late, leave early, and be like, "Nah, you know what? I'm just going to stick to I like my original setup." Then we had, Rhino and myself are out there just beating in laps. I'm thinking every year the bike should get better, but think of Jeremy, 93, 94, 95, 96 was basically the same bike.
Yeah.
Pretty close to the same bike all those years.
Especially his bike, because the story is he kept using the 93 frame.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Imig, he rode the 96 bike all through 97 and he won everything. I didn't like my 97 as much as my 96. And I really hated the 98 way more than the 97 and 96.
Yeah.
We finally started going back to just our old settings in 98. And even Jeff he was doing bad. And I got a third, I think, at New Orleans. Felt good to be back on the podium. And then the following week is when I broke my femur in Michigan. And then that was it. Yeah.
Yeah. And then that 99 KX, the update was famously not a great bike. So, well, I don't know. It's interesting your opinion because Ricky and Fro hated that 99. So, yeah.
Yeah, it felt different. At that time, I had an offer to go to, I think Suzuki, and I think I was talking to Yamaha about riding the 400 that they had at the time.
Yep.
So that's kind of I wonder what would happen there, because that thing would have been a huge advantage.
Yes.
But it was just so different that I didn't have the confidence to be like, oh yeah, I'm going to be the only guy on this bike and I'm going to win on it. So I stuck with Cowie. I took a pay cut, stuck with Cowie, teammates with Carmichael. And it was just an okay year. You know, honestly, after having 3 years of broken bones and surgeries, I had a goal. One of my goals was to make it through every race and to be like injury free.
Yeah.
So kind of naturally, that's kind of a good thought. But you know, looking back on it now, that really takes you from a guy who can maybe win or get on the podium to now you're a top 5 guy, top 5, top 7, with that kind of mentality of thinking, I don't want to get hurt.
Yeah.
So no regrets because, hey, I'm still pretty healthy and I never did anything too gnarly to my body. But and I had a long career, and that's why just having it's that little intangible something that the top guys just have over the rest, to where the other guys look like they're just struggling a hair, and the top guys are just hanging it out.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, man. Like,
yeah,
you know, anyone that's a fan of the sport would, you can, as I'm listening to you, there's riders running through my head, even riders out there right now. Malcolm Stewart right now.
Yeah.
Wants to get through the season. You know, he's got the speed to win the race. Yeah. That sort of thing. There's people every year, there's guys like that where, you know, they're coming off injury and there's something where they're just not at that same level and that sort of thing, and partly physical sometimes, but that mental side,
I guess, you know, an analogy would be, you know, if you're, not that I'm for this, but if you're gonna, you know, beat your dog, your dog isn't gonna do that anymore. He's gonna be a little gun shy, like, oh shit, I don't want to do that. And that's, you know, hitting the ground, snapping bones, and having surgeries, like, it's like, I don't want to do that anymore. You know, you can't really blame myself. But and I listen to these guys, you know, like Rhino and Trey Kennard, and they talk about all their injuries, and I'm just like, holy cow, that's crazy. You know, still I've only broken 5 bones in my whole life, you know, knock on wood, but and you know, 2 of them are fingers and a collarbone. And,
you've done well there.
Bones,
you've done well. You think about it, you've done pretty well.
You know, they're talking about, I broke my back 3 times and my neck once and broke femurs, and I'm just, that's crazy. Crazy stuff. But
it is a crazy sport, isn't it? You know, like it's when you would have come across times in your life where somebody who's not a moto person comes to an event and gets talking to moto people and the subject of injuries come up. It just blows them away, doesn't it? Like they think you're making things up. They think you're lying sometimes. Like, is that no, you didn't really do that. They think you're telling tales.
It's such a crazy sport because you can still kind of race with the, you know, guys have done it. You know, either a broken hand or thumb, or you know, badly sprained ankle, or a torn up no ACL. There's not too many other sports where you can still compete and still win. You know, I remember Pastrana raced with a broken hand. He rode it with a cast on his hand all summer and still won the championship. You know, where you know, if you relate it to like golf, you can have a fingernail that's like bothering you and it's gonna like affect your swing, or if your feet or ankles are messed up, forget about it. Or a bad back, but motocross, I don't know, you know, it's the bike underneath you and all the gear, and I think just adrenaline
pumping
through your body, that you know, what? Yeah, I broke my collarbone last week. I got a plate on it, but I'm still racing, right?
Mm.
It's like,
Yeah.
other sports, you're not doing that, but
Yeah.
it's crazy.
It is, man. It is. So after that, man, you went back to Suzuki, and you had a also a little stint on a Yamaha, and then to
Yeah,
Honda. So you got right across the
yeah,
brands later in your career.
yeah. So back to Suzuki, just a 1 year deal. It was a pretty good year. Um, and that was really the last year on a factory team
Yeah.
in 2000.
Yeah.
I had one podium. I had a number of good races where I was consistent, but those like top four guys were just a little separated, and
Mm.
um, it was a fun year. I didn't really do that great outdoors. Consistent, you know, top five, top 10. Uh, and then 2001, I don't even remember that well. It was one of my worst years. I went to a privateer
Mm.
Moto World
Moto
Yamaha
World.
team, and
Yeah.
I didn't like the bike. Um, Not a whole lot stands out other than I rode the 250F outdoors, and I think I had a couple podiums on that.
Mm.
And that was fun.
Mm.
Supercross, not fun, but outdoors, because there's still a lot of 125s out there.
Yeah.
Well, only Yamaha had the 4-stroke, but
Yeah.
I love that little bike.
Yeah. And that
It
was
was so
before.
easy
Yeah.
to
Before.
ride.
Before we realized what an advantage that was,
Yeah,
it was still like, oh, are these things better than a 125? We're not sure yet, So,
yeah. They're hard to start. You don't want to stall
yeah,
them.
yeah,
They're tricky, but I love that little bike. It was so easy to ride, and it just had a little bit more power than a 125. And yeah, I know I had a couple podiums, maybe 2 or 3 podiums on it outdoors. So that was cool. Then that I stuck with the same team, and they went to Suzuki's in 2002,
mm,
and then I was back on, 2 strokes, and again, not a great year, really.
yeah. And then the Moto Triple X after that.
Yeah. So really I started in '03 with nothing at all. Nothing. I had a couple deals lined up that didn't work out. And then I went to the first race like literally in my pickup truck with a bike that Honda gave me, and I didn't qualify. Um uh yeah, I felt really weird doing it that way. And then Moto Triple X, I don't know if Kyle Lewis or someone was hurt at the time, but they're like, hey, come ride our bike. And then it started to pick up. Uh, and that summer, I already had a deal to go to Canada with Blackfoot Honda,
Yep.
and that was a lot of fun. Uh, and then in 2004, Moto Triple X again, and I had a really good year. I had a couple top fives. I got fourth at Anaheim. It was like Anaheim 3 or whatever it was, but fourth place is pretty solid
Mm,
on a full, almost stock with bolt-on parts, four
yeah.
stroke.
Yeah.
Uh, that was really cool. I had a lot of hole shots that year. I think I hole shot at like 4 or 5 races.
Mm,
Uh, but then back to Canada, and I just kind of kept that up all the way through '05. Then
yeah.
2005 was my last year doing Supercross.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool, man. And then lots of things after that, man. So,
Kind of.
yeah,
Yeah.
the 6 days you did. How many years did you do the 6 days? Just the 1 year?
Just 1 year, 2009.
Yep.
And that was one of the last events I ever did.
Okay. Yep.
Uh, so 2006, I didn't race or really ride at all.
Yep.
Nothing at all. My first boy was born in '05. My second one was born in '06. And I was just kind of like, what am I doing with my life? And then I started to ride a little bit. I was doing riding lessons and kind of felt like I wasn't quite done. I was done with Supercross. It's just a brutal schedule.
Mm.
It's so hard to not be injured. I was burnt out on the travel.
Yeah.
But I did all three of the enduro cross races at the end
Yeah.
of 07.
Yeah.
And I jumped right in and got third. My next one, I got second. And then Kawasaki was like, what are your plans? You want to race off-road? And I was like, yeah, I'll do off-road. So I got picked up by Cowie in 08 and 09, doing the works races and enduro cross. Pretty much second overall every year I did in enduro cross.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe third the last year, but almost won the title in 08.
Who won the title?
Ricky Dietrich.
Okay.
You know that name?
Yep.
So I won, it was only 6 races and I won 3 of them.
Mm.
And one race I broke his finger here.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Finger was sideways and I didn't qualify that night. Then I didn't get it fixed because there was like a week off and then Vegas enduro cross the final. And I went out and I won it.
Yeah.
I won the final and lost it by a couple points.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a bummer.
Yeah. Yeah. And you did some works races as well?
Yeah.
That time? Yeah.
Yeah, 08 and 09. And those are gnarly. They're very I did one GNCC race and one and all the works races, and the gnarliest races I've ever done. Even gnarlier than Southwick, Unadilla, all that.
Yeah.
You can add up your whole time of riding on at a national, both practices and both motos, and it still doesn't even add up to the amount of time like one race is. 2 hours plus a lap, which sometimes one lap would be over 20 minutes long. Through the gnarliest off-road terrain, plus motocross, plus, like pro sections with enduro cross logs and tires and mud. I mean, it felt like everyone was like doing a marathon.
Yeah.
For me, I was a little bit older, but the schedule was great because I would have, 2 or 3 weeks to recover before the next one. So I loved it. I would have gone on another year or two, but Kawasaki just ended. I think they ended their off-road program because of the economy and to pay Villapoto money because he was winning, every Supercross title. Yeah.
Cool.
So
man.
that was it.
Cool.
But ISDE was insane. That was tough. Yeah.
Yeah.
One and done. But
love to, when I get you back on next time, we're going to dig more into your off-road racing career, I reckon. So
yeah,
that was, and nowadays you've got I've seen on Instagram you're jumping on a Suzuki again. You've got you got an RMZ.
I do from Suzuki. Finally, it's taken a little while. They've had, believe it or not, they're like short on bikes, and but I have a brand new one.
Yep.
And I'm working on. I just got just the other day from Throttle Syndicate. I don't want to talk too much about it, but it's going to be kind of like one of my old replica race bikes that Berluti used to build.
Nice.
It's going to have that old retro, I think 1995 look to it.
Yeah.
So I'm slowly starting to piece that together, and this summertime I'll I'll put out a little more content, maybe some YouTube videos or Instagram, just little stuff here and there.
Cool.
But I got, the guys at Fast House, setting me up with all the gear, all the mountain bike gear and gear for my boys to ride in, and X brand goggles, and yeah, it's cool to have, that little bit of support and love, and so I can ride, a little bit and have some fun.
Cool, man. Cool. Hey, time for a quick ad read, Damon. I'm proud to say that Guts Racing is a sponsor of the Outside Gate. So when RJ Hampshire, when RJ when RJ lit the flames in Nashville, he was on a Guts seat. So how about that?
Okay.
And if you buy a new Husky Rockstar Edition FC 250 or FC 450, they come off the showroom with a Guts seat on them. So that's pretty cool to have have an OEM on their premium bike actually delivering it with a Guts seat on it. So if it's good enough for them, it's good enough for anybody, including HEP Suzuki, Moto Concepts Honda, Phoenix Honda, AEO KTM, PRMX Kawasaki, and countless privateers. Even my old ass sits on a Guts seat. And as Scott Meshy says, a privateer hero, Scott Meshy, as he says, they're a butt gripper and they will make you a ripper. So if you want to check out gutsracing.com, that's a real easy one to remember, gutsracing.com. Check them out and get yourself a seat like Scott Meshy and like RJ Hampshire. Awesome. You have to get a Guts seat on that Suzuki, or you might have another seat sponsor, which is okay too.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't know yet. But I tell you what, as I get older, I really don't like the stock seats. I think I'm a tall guy. I'm 6'1", and I feel like the brand new modern day bikes are getting a little too narrow.
They are, aren't they? Yeah.
I remember my 90, back in the 90s, those bikes are a little wider. They had bigger, thicker seats, and I used my knees a lot and, would grip the seat. And now the seats are so thin and narrow that I feel like my knees are like pinching together. So
this is perfect, Damon, because Guts actually makes a seat called the wide wing seat. So it's a foam and a cover that is actually wider at the knees to grip the bike better. Yeah. That's actually a thing. So there you go. If you get on there and just make sure you tell Andy Gregg that you heard it from me. Hey? So he'll know,
there you go.
He'll know that I'm doing the job for him for his sponsorship. Yeah. Fantastic, man. But yeah, that is a product they make for that exact reason. So
yeah. I'll be looking. I would love to get somewhat of a custom seat that's slightly taller, and just a little bit wider. I mean, the seats nowadays are only a few inches wide, and it's hard on the butt.
It is hard. It is hard. Yeah. That's right.
Those old seats had, they were pretty wide. It was nice to seat bounce or go through corners. And now I'm telling you, riding is just a track is like painful feeling.
Yeah.
I feel it all through my back, but yeah.
Cool, man. Just a couple of things. We didn't want to keep you too much more than an hour, and we're getting close to that. But I just wanted to just touch on a couple of things of what you get up to nowadays. We've spoken about your mountain biking. Obviously, you've got kids that are into mountain biking as well, and you are your day job. Is it still working for LA's Finest?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah. I'm still a motor cop for LAPD. So just over 13 years now doing that. About half the time has been on the bike now.
Yeah.
Just over 6 years on the bike. But I'm actually getting ready next week, May 7th. I'm going to be flying back to New York City for, it's called the Police Week or the Unity Tour. It's part of the whole Police Memorial Foundation, where to raise money and to like awareness for how many officers that are actually killed in the line of duty every year. So I'll be able to ride my actual LAPD BMW in New York City and through Washington, D.C. We're going to be back there for like 5 days. I've never done that before. It's my first time. But yeah, whatever to get me off the regular streets of LA. It's still pretty crazy.
Yeah.
We just really kind of do what we can and try to stay safe. And that's about it. But until they start enforcing laws, because we're so held back by our policies.
Yeah.
It could be a state law, but LAPD's policy is like, oh no, go ahead, jaywalk and drive around with your blacked out windows, and they don't want us really doing much enforcement. So, everyone just gets a little more disrespectful, I guess, because they can get away with it. But yeah, it's okay. I don't love what I do. There's a bunch of guys I work with that are good guys, and I enjoy my time with them.
Yeah.
But the actual job, it's not me. I work with a bunch of good guys, but we're kind of on the same page. Like,
the job's got harder over your time. Has the job got harder, or is it just sort of much the same?
Yes and no. Harder where if we actually do any enforcement, they're always making some sort of, bringing race into it, or you stop me because of this, or I'm this color. But that part's has gotten tougher. But our job's gotten easier because we don't have to do that enforcement like we used to.
Yeah.
We just mainly go to traffic collisions and deal with traffic reports and drunk drivers occasionally. But the traffic accidents can be really, really bad too. But
yeah,
for the most part, it's going to a handful of accidents, making sure either they're getting a report done or they got their exchange of information and they can be on their way. Just helping get tow trucks there and clean up the street and get traffic moving. But I don't know. I can really talk bad about it, but I'm not. It's just, it is what it is. Yeah.
That's
I'm happy to be employed and, have great benefits and a paycheck that comes every 2 weeks. And we do a lot of good stuff sometimes, but, we do get a lot of middle fingers saying we're number one, and we're not really well liked, which all we do is go around helping people for the most part. But
yeah,
I'm just trying to get to the 20-year mark and get out. That's
yeah, fair enough. Yeah. You guys, you obviously grew up in California, and now you do it as a job. You probably don't realize how, or you might have been told just how cool the cars and the bikes are to people that aren't from California. So I went to my first overseas trip was this January, and it was to California to go to Anaheim 1. And growing up, we see constantly TV movies of California, and LA black and white cop car. The first one I saw when I was there, that was so cool. It was like, wow, that is just. And every time I saw one, I was just like, that is just so cool, So because it's just like reminds me of every cool movie I've ever seen. And I saw motorbike cops as well. I was just like, that is cool. Yeah. So, I know. I remember
No.
being told, years ago that you're not allowed to take photos of the police. So, but I was like, oh, I nearly wanted to ask someone. I say, hey, can I just take a photo of your car because this is so cool.
Oh yeah.
It was a cool thing. But I thought, oh, I better not. Yeah, I better not bother them. So, but yeah,
Mm.
it is a really cool thing. I remember our cop cars are they're blue and white here in
Oh, okay.
Victoria, and and they used to have these real big round lights on them. And then at one stage in the would have been in the 90s, they changed to the big light bars
Yeah.
like the LA cop cars have. And I remember us just thinking that was cool. That the local, the highway patrol cars here, they got these, we started calling them LA styles because they had the LA
Oh, okay.
style lights, and it was
Yeah.
so yeah, it was a bit of a thing that people, you guys would be used to seeing them every day when you're out in traffic.
Yeah.
But for me, that was actually something that I didn't expect to sort of see and think was so cool. Yeah, but it was for sure, man.
Yep. Black and white. Yeah.
That's it. That's it. Um, just a couple of quick things. What other skills? What other skills do you have, or would you love to have?
Hmm. Well, uh, I think naturally I'm probably just kind of best on two wheels. I've been playing golf for over 30 years now, and sometimes I feel like I should be better than I am, and other times I feel like, shit, I'm pretty good. I'm better than most. But that's a game that will just drive you crazy for your whole entire life. Um, Good question. I mean, I I love golf. It's a passion of mine. I would love to be, like on the PGA Tour or
Mm,
something, but that's never going to happen.
yeah,
Uh,
actually, a lot of moto
yeah,
guys that I've asked that question, they would love to be great at golf. It's
I
a pretty
know.
common one. It's
It's
funny how
it's
many moto people are into golf because it's almost like that's it's the polar opposite sport, and it gives that so it gives them something that they don't get from moto. I guess it's like
yeah.
it's a funny
Well,
thing, that connection there.
yeah, my love is I love, especially being on a nice, pretty golf course and being outdoors. But also, you step up, you have one shot, just one, opportunity to make a good swing and execute the shot you want. And, you might blow it. Then if you drop a ball, then, second time, oh, there it is. I can do it. So it's so competitive with like just your inner self, but
Mm.
at the same time being really relaxing and being outdoors and it's peaceful, or yeah, almost, I mean, I feel like I've had like spiritual moments on the golf course with, the little light fog burning off and the sunlight and the dew on the
Mm.
grass. I mean, you can really get into it, but that's why I loved it, because it's still so challenging and mentally tough, yet you're not wearing yourself out, or you're not gonna go over the bars and get injured doing it. But I don't know. I think I wish I was smarter with like investing my money, or I probably want to be an actual cop right now. But can't. I have no regrets.
Mm.
I had such an awesome time racing professionally for 17 years, traveling the world and, getting paid to do it. And yeah, it was awesome. Um, it's a bummer you can't do it as long as you can like golf, but yeah,
Yeah, that's
I just
right. Yeah.
enjoy my days off with the kids. We have three kids, 18, 17, and 13, two boys and a girl. And I just got back mountain biking with the boys. I'm like looking pretty red in my point of view on the camera,
Okay,
but
yeah. Bit of
I got a little
vitamin D.
sun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, spending time with the kids. Or our oldest kid is getting ready to go to aviation school um, in Arizona.
Yep.
So it's kind of, he's going to be leaving later this summer, which, are, I'm kind of, I'm really stoked for him, and I want him to grow and continue to learn. But like inside, it's like, man, he's like my riding buddy.
Yeah.
Or I take him golfing or to the range, and or I have a couple dirt bikes for them to ride. But yeah, they're growing up, man, just getting older.
Mm. Yeah, you can't stop that. I know my
Nope.
kids, yeah. I look at my kids so nice and I just like I can't believe they were little not long ago, and it just
Yeah.
it goes that age. Yeah, I've got a lot of younger friends who've got young age kids, and I tell them to really savor that because gee, it
Yeah.
goes quick. One
It,
one one minute
yep.
they're this funny little 6-year-old doing crazy stuff and asking you a million questions, and the next minute that 6-year-old 16 and they don't have time to talk to you. So it's
Yeah.
it goes super quick. Yeah.
Yeah. We've been lucky. All of our kids we're still really tight with them, even our 18-year-old. But yeah, you get basically about 18, 18 summers, 18
Mm,
years. And then,
yes.
yeah, things change.
Mm. It's a
Yeah.
beautiful thing though, isn't it? It's a beautiful thing, that's for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um.
Yeah. He wants to be an airline pilot, some sort
Mm,
of commercial pilot. So,
yep.
we're gonna, hey, do whatever we can to get him to achieve his goals, just like my dad did for me when I was a kid. And uh but I would love to see him get to travel the world and just go to places. It could be an awesome career.
Absolutely. That's it. Yeah. Sounds like an amazing career. So yeah.
Yeah, it can be, especially if you're flying international, or
Mm,
uh, even private jets. Who knows where it's going to lead? But
mm,
that's the plan right now.
yeah. Very good. Yeah, I reckon it's. I don't mind getting on all my planes to go somewhere cool. I don't reckon I'd have the confidence to try and fly one. No, that's for sure. Like,
Yeah,
uh,
kind of crazy. He's been going through private lessons right now, but just in
mm,
a little single engine
mm,
airplane, and I've been up with them. But uh, yeah, that's kind of the path,
mm.
So uh, pretty exciting.
It's amazing. Yeah, one of my best mates' daughters has just got her license to fly solo. And it's just like, and she's just sort of like this quiet, polite sort of kid, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, how are you so brave, like, because
Oh wow.
she's obviously, been doing lessons since she was pretty young. Because she's only 16 and she just got her
Oh wow.
license to fly solo. So she's been doing lessons
Oh
probably
wow.
as early as she was allowed to, and just like, wow,
Yeah.
like this. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
cool.
Max, he hasn't soloed yet. He's taken off, but he's still with
Mm,
the flight instructor right now. So
yeah,
getting there takes
yeah,
time.
yeah. It does, yeah. What's your best bit of just life advice for young kids getting into moto?
Um, I would say, like, if you want to race, and you really want to see how far you can take it, well, number one, just go for it. Dedicate yourself. You're gonna have to give up other things,
Mm,
if you have other distractions. But for me, doing what I loved and getting to do it for a living for so long, looking back on it now, it was awesome.
Mm.
But I had a talk with like Kyle Chisholm and Freddie Noren, last year, and they're out there, they're doing decent. They qualify and still making a living at it. And a lot of people would be like, time to give it up or whatever. But I told them, do it as long as you can. Do it as long as you can. Have fun. Try to enjoy it, and just until it's like really apparent, like, okay, you're not even qualifying anymore. You're not going to get the rides that you're getting currently, that sort of thing. But if you're still getting good rides and making money and making, I'm sure Chisholm is making well over 6 figures for the
Mm.
year, right?
Mm.
Keep on doing it, man. But like any sport, you have to be so focused and dedicated, and just it has to be what you think about in the morning and what you're thinking about as you're lying in bed. I had so many little tricks I did. Like I never used the air conditioner in my car, like my whole racing career. It was
Mm.
like I just want to adapt to the heat.
Yep.
Or it's almost like a phobia, but I never wanted any lotion, even like suntan lotion or oil, to get on my hands.
Yep.
I just wanted them to be like leather,
Yes.
right? Or else I'm
Yep.
going to get a blister.
Yep.
But it's little tiny sacrifices that I felt, help separate me from the next guy who's riding in my class. But um, you have to be willing to do that. And it's probably a little harder now with, cell phones and social media and everything going on now. But back in the day, I had no distractions.
Mm.
You know, it if I wasn't riding, I was either riding my stand-up jet ski, I was mountain biking, I was playing tennis, golf. I was always just active, and I always try to focus and do things in the middle of the day when it's the hottest. With my cycling, I mean, I did things wrong. Like I remember, I'm going on 2 hour. I would practice all day, go on a 2 hour mountain bike ride, and I would think it'd be I wouldn't take any water or anything with me, because you just got to grind it out and suffer. I'll
Yeah.
hydrate when I get back. But
Yeah.
when you're in a 30-minute moto plus 2 laps, you're not taking a sip of water.
Yeah.
You really have to suffer and finish out those last couple laps,
Mm.
and give it everything you have.
Mm.
And that's one thing Mike Kudrowski taught me. Kudrowski, I remember after one outdoor national, he's like, "How do you feel?" And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I still feel pretty good." Thinking, "Yeah, I'm in good shape. Yeah, I'm not even tired." And he just like, "No, that's that's the wrong mentality to have." He's like, "You need to leave everything you have out on that track, and it's okay to be tired when you're done, but don't come back to the truck and be like, oh yeah, I can do another 30-minute moto." He was just like, no, just leave it all out there,
Mm.
push through to the end. And that was really good advice. And you really
Mm.
have to run up front and to win,
Mm.
unless you're able to pull up a 30-second gap and cruise the last couple laps. But for the most part, yeah, you gotta, you know, it's like a running race. You don't ease up at the finish line.
Yeah.
You run through the finish, then you slow down. But if that's what it takes. So
Cool,
I don't
man.
know.
That's
That's
some
about it.
that's
But
some good
working
advice,
hard,
man. There.
and
Yeah.
yeah, that's what it ultimately boils down to. Uh yeah, there were times where I didn't want to practice or train, but um mix it up. I did a lot of play riding. I would play ride in the hills. I was always good about doing my motos and putting in the laps, but we would go to the desert. I did a lot of play riding, but that's when I felt best and most comfortable on the bike. I think guys need to do that a little bit more rather than just,
Yeah.
lap times, lap times, lap times, lap times. I mean, go have fun.
Make it fun.
Sometimes you
Yeah.
get to the race and it's like you feel ready to race,
Mm.
But the other two things looking back on my career that I know would have helped me a lot. Number one, doing more stretching. And number two, warming up a lot more before the race, especially in Supercross. I would literally ride practice, then you wait until the night show. Then it's like, oh, I'm going to do some jumping jacks and kind of, do a couple twists and like, all right, line up and go.
Mm.
Then if you had to ride like the semi race, back then we had a semi qualifier.
Yeah.
Then if I rode the semi, honestly, the main event, I felt like zero arm pump, like it's on.
Yeah.
If I qualified out of the heat, and then I had about hour and a half, 2 hour break, then the main event, I would always get a little arm pump. So I didn't mind going to the semi and getting that extra 5 laps. Then I was warmed up for the main.
Mm.
So I needed to warm up more before the motos. Yeah. And that's it.
Great advice, man. Great advice. Dude, I do 2 things to close out the show. First one is give me your best Aussie accent.
Yeah, mate. Well, I was on the golf course today, and I was talking about this with a buddy. I'm like, I'm doing this podcast with this Australian guy, and then he's like, shrimp on the Barbie, or I don't know. I've never been to Australia. I would love to go.
Yeah.
Other than throwing in, yeah, mate, crikey, shrimp on the Barbie and give me one of those pastas.
Yeah. You're not too bad. You're not too bad.
I don't know.
That's all right.
You got the roos and the dingoes. You gotta watch out. I don't know, man.
Cool, man. Thanks for that. That's just a bit of fun I like to have. Bit of fun I like to have. Yeah, sometimes you get you're somewhere in the middle. Sometimes you get ones that are just tragically bad, and then sometimes you get ones that are surprisingly good. So
I know the live golf tour is in Australia, so I'm looking forward to watching that on TV. But
yeah. I don't know heaps about golf, man. Honestly, yeah, I know what live is. I know it's like it's a new tour. It's like a rival tour and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Because you hear it on just sports radio stations and stuff a bit about it. But yeah, I don't know. I think is that Greg Norman's pretty involved in that. That's sort of his thing, is it?
Yeah, he's behind that. I like it. It's something different.
Yeah.
I like the announcers. I can stream it from my phone to the TV. There's no commercials. It's just shot after shot after shot after shot, and there's a little bit of a team element to it.
Okay. Yeah.
So you have an individual winner, and then you have a winning team, and it's kind of. I think it's fun and different.
Yeah.
So, and the one in Australia is in Adelaide.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I think I heard about it in Adelaide. Yeah.
Yeah, the amount of fans, and a guy made a hole in one, and there are so many beers being thrown, and it was absolutely insane.
Yeah.
They went off.
Yeah. Very good, man. All right, to close out the show, man, I sing a little bit of Kenny Rogers. There's a funny backstory to that, which I won't bore you with, but that's what I that's what I do, and I always say to people, if you know the words, you're welcome to join in. Most people don't, so don't
Yeah.
worry. Don't worry about that. Most people don't. So I'll just ease into a bit of that. So I handed him my bottle, and he drank down my last swallow. Then he bummed a cigarette and asked me for a light, and the night got deathly quiet, and his face lost all expression. Said, if you're gonna play the game, boy, you gotta learn to play it right. You got to know when to hold 'em, know when to fold 'em,
Yeah, I know that part.
know when to walk away, know when to run. You never count your money. When you're sitting at the table, there'll be time enough for counting when the dealing's done. Damon Huffman, thank you very much. I'm going to call this part one because I definitely got lots more to talk to you about. And in the future, we'll get you on for a part two. That'll be fantastic. Okay. And yeah, thank you very much for your time. This has been a really fun pod. I don't say that to everyone. That's genuine. It's been really fun to talk to you. And yeah, you got a very interesting story. And yeah, good luck with your riding on your mountain bikes, your new Suzuki, and good luck to your family, your young fella with his aviation and all that sort of thing. It's been a pleasure.
Awesome. Well, I had a great time. Thank you for the invite on your show, and we'll do it again sometime. Sure.
Thank you, man. Cheers. Bye.
All right. Thank you.